Hello and welcome back to the Sabbath Show. Today we are doing the Nets Sixers series preview. It's going to be a good one, a really good one. I reckon it's going to be one of the more entertaining series of the NBA playoffs for a number of reasons. But today we're going to be going through some keys to the playoffs, how the Nets are going to get the job done as underdogs. And to the left of me, the right of your screen, you can see a list of topics we're going to be going through. You can navigate through. I'll have a little indicator that shows what we're up to, or you can just watch the full thing in its entirety. Also, little disclaimer, we're going to be doing watch-alongs for games 2 and 3, and we'll have a little post-game show in the evening, if you're in the US, for game 1 as well. So just as a little bit of background before we actually delve into the topics, the last time we actually meaningfully played this Sixers team was the first game of this era. With the current composition of the squad, we lost by 3. We were in front for the majority of the game, and then in the last quarter hit a very big offensive rut, and unfortunately weren't able to get the job done. Mikal Bridges top scored in that game with 23. Spencer Dinwiddie did basically nothing. Clax didn't really have a big influence. And on the other side, Joel Embiid and James Harden combined for 66 of their 101 points. So it was a very defensively minded game, a much more slower paced game than usual between these two sides because it's usually more high scoring, but I'm not really sure if we're going to get that sort of game an awful lot in this series. So our first thing to discuss is Nic Claxton. Could you argue that this center is probably the most important center in the series in terms of dictating a result? I would say yes. Because Clax has a very big job on his hands to stop Joel Embiid. The last time that he actually had a stranglehold on this player was in a game that we lost. I think it was 137-133. Joel Embiid went 6 of 18 from the field, and Clax had a 25-point double-double, which is something I don't think we're going to be subjected to because we haven't been subjected to such a ceiling in terms of Clax's offense in this new era, but the capability is there. Nic Claxton has proven and talked about, not shying away from the challenge. Joel Embiid trash talks an awful lot, but Clax really matches that energy well. He did say in a press conference recently that he likes to chat on the court. Talking trash is a part of basketball. We've had some discussions in the past. So he's not going to, just let Joel Embiid walk over the top of him. He's going to hold his ground. He brings an unmatched level of energy. He is the barometer in some ways in the sense that, the energy can be well and truly down in the dumps, and then he does one simple play that elevates the energy in the room and really lifts the confidence of this Nets team. So I think in a lot of ways, Clax leads the way. And Clax, defensively is just an absolute monster. A tweet by NBA University, which is a stats oriented account, said that Nic Claxton is in the 99th percentile for rim points saved. And this is with him guarding guards on the perimeter. It's going to be very interesting to see if we play drop coverage in the pick and roll or we decide to switch everything. I haven't been a big fan of the switch defense because it puts us in a lot of bad situations with mismatches under the basket and trying to get offensive rebounds or defensive rebounds is really tough. But that being said, if Clax is playing this well, in terms of protecting rim points, even when he switches onto guards, shows that he can keep up with these guards. And, nothing's too out of the question for Clax. So I think the switch defense in this regard really favors Clax. Now, the next thing we discuss is three-point shooting. The Nets are the definition of living by the 3 and dying by the 3. In games where we've shot the ball like trash are games where we lose. Games where we perform exceptionally well. there is a record, I think, where we're 12-1 or something like that when we have 16 or more threes or 15 or more threes. The stats don't lie. We perform in those games. There was also a tweet made on the 10th of April, which is basically the last day of the season. We're 7-3 when the Nets shoot 38% or more from 3. So there's just another statistic right there for you. I think someone that really encapsulates this this concept is Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, a lot of games he hasn't been able to exceed the 10-point mark. Now, when he does do that, we're either in a very close game, or in the case of a game like Boston, where he had his second highest scoring game as a net, where he hit 5 threes on 11 shots. He scored 17. We won that game. You look at the 19-point game against Atlanta, where he hit 4 of 6 from 3. We won that by 17. And then the Minnesota game, obviously, that was a little bit of a different kind of result. But even then, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 3 dimes, 4 of 6 from 3. So if we're going to win the series or win a few games, Doe needs to be one of those players. Same with Royce. They all need to step up and start hitting these threes, especially the wide open ones, because there's plenty of opportunities. We've seen it throughout the season. You've got to knock them down. Now, the next thing we talk about is clutch situations. Now, in that third meeting against Philly, we went into a severe offensive rut. I think we scored 1 field goal in about 5.5, 6 minutes. And sure, that was with a team that, had no cohesion, no chemistry. That's happened numerous times in this era of Nets basketball. Now, Mikal Bridges obviously is the number one option. You have to play through this guy. I mean, when we have him score 30 or more points, we're 7-4. We said, 11 30-point games in his Nets tenure. And that is incredible given the small sample of games he's played. Now, another interesting thing is he's taken 121 pull-up twos in the last 15 games. At least that was what was said on April the 7th. That basically is telling me a lot about what Mikal can do, even when the offense gets into a rut. You need a shot creator to bail you out with a really difficult shot being made. And Mikal has not been afraid to take those kinds of difficult shots in the mid-range over, outstretched arms, and he's knocked them down at a high percentage more often than not. It's sort of tailed off at the back of the season, but we need him to do that. And he needs the ball in order to do that as well. Now, an interesting thing is there was documentation of field goal attempts in the clutch, and Mikal Bridges is behind Spencer Dinwiddie and Cam Johnson for field goal attempts in the clutch, which is just ridiculous. I mean, he's got under 1 field goal attempt in the clutch behind Cam Johnson and Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie had taken 2.5. We know how Spencer is, but he's got to get the ball, Mikal. And there was a couple of games where we played Minnesota, and that went to overtime. We won that game. And then also the Denver game, which was decided by a very slim margin. Mikal Bridges had 3 shots in the final 3 minutes, plus OT, in the case of the Minnesota game, in comparison to Spencer Dinwiddie, who took 10 shots, which is just, we can't be having such a large disparity, number one. And number two, Mikal just needs more, simply put, because Spencer Dinwiddie is, as much as he can create the shot, usually the shots he takes are more irrational. It's like the shot tendency for his 3-point shot goes significantly higher in the clutch as, the shots in the paint, where he's probably most dominant, goes down. Now, back on March 15, I don't know if this has significantly changed or not, but Mikal Bridges was also getting less touches in a game against Royce O'Neal, who had 62. That's 12 more or 11 more than Mikal Bridges, which is ridiculous given Royce is coming off the bench, number one, and averaging a crap ton less points per game. Mikal scored 30 plus and he's getting less touches than Royce O'Neal. Now, we've seen what happens when you get Mikal scoring 30 or more. Feed him the ball, and especially in the clutch, with the way he's been able to score the ball. It's just an absolute no-brainer. And the coaching staff have got to make sure that they put more emphasis, place more emphasis on getting Mikal the basketball. Now, the next thing we look at is Spencer Dinwiddie, or as we can see here, Dinwiddie. I mean, that's just a terrible play on words, but look, Spencer Dinwiddie has had an interesting sort of run with the Nets. He hasn't shot the ball particularly well, but he had the most assists of anyone in the league in March. He was averaging about 10.5 to 11 at that time, which is sort of insane, given didn't really miss a game, if at all. But yeah, his shooting numbers have been fairly down. Look, fact of the matter is that when Spencer scores 30 points or more and has like 7 dimes, we lose. And if he has 15 points and has 15 dimes, we win. Now, obviously, I'm going to be much more for Spencer, doing the latter. Spencer's probably going to get a lot of opportunity to drive it to the cup. And we've seen what Claxton can do in the post and around the basket. So Spencer's got to utilize the dump-off pass a lot. And for the most part, he's been exceptional at, finding the man and being unselfish. But it is those clutch situations, which we've just mentioned, that are going to separate, our good from bad. Spencer's got to find the right balance. And when he's passing in clutch situations and, handing the reins to Mikal, that's when we look better. And look, I think Joel Embiid's going to be pretty comfy sitting in the paint on defense because Clax can't shoot the ball. So if Dinwiddie can force Embiid to go up with him, then that Clax dump off is going to always be there. And also you've got Cam Johnson and Doe who have shown ability to be cutters off the ball. So you've also got to look for that. There's going to be open looks. We've seen it. It's also going to be, a matter of whether these players can knock down their shots. But, you've got to first have someone who can facilitate the ball to get those looks. So Spencer's going to have a huge role to play and he's got to get that balance right. Okay, so the second last thing we're looking at is adjustments. Now, Jacque Vaughn has been pretty good at reacting on the fly. Defensively, we had a 10-game stretch where we were only conceding 110 points a game, or roundabout, which was the second best mark in the league. Now, as we've seen, this team is hella inconsistent. And it's going to be a matter of whether or not we can, if we find trouble defending, we've got to find new ways to innovate and be smart with it. Joe Harris said recently that Joel Embiid, the key to stopping him is it's going to be keeping him off the foul line. And with that, there's going to need to be a good system in place in order to stop that. And if, the going gets tough, at the start of the game, you've got to have that resilience and find a new way to keep him off the free throw line. Joel Embiid, in the last 5 games, he has taken as many as 15 free throws and as little as 9. So he's got a knack of getting to the free throw line. So it's not going to be a matter of completely stopping him, but it's going to be a matter of making things more difficult and getting the ball out of his hands. So we've got to be smart with that. And with that's going to come, there's going to be difficulty, but, we've got to work through these things and we can't stay put with the same shit that doesn't work. We know what happens when you don't fix something that's not working. You get punished more so for it. It's not rocket science. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that one pans out. But if, stats are anything to go by, there was a 6-game stretch where we had a defensive rating of 106, and we were 5-1 in that stretch. So defensively, when we're switched on and activated, it's all good and well. But it's going to be, those moments of adversity where the defense is not going so well that we need to find new ways on the fly. It's going to be, a big challenge for Jacque Vaughn because Joel Embiid is a force. But I have full faith and hope that Jacque Vaughn and the coaching staff have done their due diligence in this little break that we've had. And hopefully we can come out firing and ensure that even if, we don't get things right entirely, it's about the process. And if that process involves us, eventually getting it right, then I think we'll be okay. Now, just one thing to be wary of is the Philadelphia 76ers guards. Now, Tyrese Maxey is one of those. DeAnthony Melton is the other. Now, when DeAnthony Melton hits 5 or more threes, the Sixers are 5-2. And we know Tyrese Maxey, he has the ability to heat up and score 25 a game. Now, my fear is not James Harden. You probably thought when, it says Philly guards, I'm talking about James Harden. I'm not. Because I feel like we can stop James Harden. I feel like he's a bit of a predictable kind of player. You know what you're going to get. It's just going to be a matter of, whether he actually shows up for it, and hits those difficult shots that sometimes he makes, sometimes he doesn't. But I feel like he's going to be a bit more of a facilitator this series than, you know, we've seen in the past. Tyrese Maxey scares me because, yeah, I feel like there could be a game where he goes off for 25 to 30 and is the difference. In a game where we do stop Joel Embiid, and it will be a case of, you know, an opportunity being wasted because, you know, we've had this awesome Joel Embiid performance where we've quelled his influence, and then, you know, we've let Tyrese Maxey score 25 and DeAnthony Melton go off for, you know, 5 or 6 3-pointers. That's not what I want, but I'm just putting it out there. If we can ensure that we close these guys out as well, just don't give them the opportunity to shoot. I mean, don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't tease them with an open 3-pointer. Like, simple, fundamental basketball. It's really that simple. I mean, I can give credit to Tyrese Maxey if he scores 25 on all difficult shots, but, you know, if there's things that we can control with regards to stopping these two guys and even the other role players, Niang, McDaniels, you know, then we have to do everything in our power. It's going to require a concerted team effort. And now, speaking of team effort, I just want to play this short clip off of the Nets Twitter just to really G ourselves up.
We're together in this thing, all right? We're going to get to the other side. We're going to get to the other side.
Play hard, play together. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! All you got, let's work, come on. Let's just go early. Every play matters.
Let's hoop. Go, man. Let's play together.
We're coming for each other. Family up 3, 1, 2, 3.
Keep holding on to the rope, bro. And we'll climb this thing together.
And so there you have it. We have 7 games, hopefully, to get the job done. It's going to require a complete team performance. We need to stay together in this. That is for the players and the coaching staff. That is for fans who are supporting the team. We all need to stay united. And it's going to be one hell of a roller coaster series, I do feel. But if we can get a win against the Grain in game 1, that is going to, you know, help us power through this, you know, this playoff run, I do feel. So we've got to start strong. There's a lot of things to consider. I obviously could have covered more keys to the playoffs because there are so many little storylines about this series, given this, you know, these two teams have history, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, we'll see you for the watch-alongs or the little live talk shows that I'll be doing throughout the course. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.